Abraham, the topic I'd like to bring up is baggage, emotional, cultural, psychological baggage. I've got 3 old cars sitting out beside my garage that I've had in excess of 20 years. I've spent many happy hours making lists of what I want to do to these cars, the changes I want to make with them, the sequence of events, buying tools in preparation, and sourcing parts, and lots of time, lots and lots of hours. Over the past couple of years, though, I'm noticing that it's just not as much fun as it used to be. I don't get as much joy out of considering the process of working on these cars. And
have you taken any action at all over the time that they've been there, or has it all been a mental game?
No, there's been some fair physical action. In fact, one of them is torn completely apart and causing no small amount of dissent from the other members of the household. But what it brings to me is that is it possible that we bring with us certain dreams and goals from earlier times that may no longer be appropriate now, or we may have...
But they're not inappropriate or appropriate for any reason other than you're no longer keeping them alive, or you are keeping them alive. In other words, nothing is inappropriate in the sense that you shouldn't bring it. And we wouldn't use the word appropriate or inappropriate. We would call it active or inactive. When you talked about bringing baggage forward, emotional baggage in a variety of life aspects, we want to say that what we feel in the vibration of someone who uses the word emotional baggage, we would like to put it into the law of attraction vernacular and say any baggage that you continue to carry with you is something that you're keeping active in your vibration. And is there not some baggage that is beneficial? In other words, as Jerry and Esther move about, they've got baggage. And in the baggage, which is a positive word, they carry things that are essential to their experience. And so baggage is not a bad thing. So there are things you carry with you that are beneficial and a vibrational match to your now intentions, and there are, in the vernacular that you were offering it, baggage that you carry forward that no longer matches who you now are.
Exactly, and this begins to get around to my real question. If there is such a thing as baggage with respect to earlier goals and plans and dreams, and of course we're all taught to follow through with your plans, hold to your dreams, don't just quit on projects and so forth. So perhaps I wonder if I have spent too much time bringing something along with me that I no longer need. Given
well,
that,
what happens, we can see what happens with some of you when you follow through with a dream. In other words, that's like saying, because I once said I wanted it, now I have to keep saying I want it. Whether there's any emotional movement in it or not, I have to keep wanting it because I once said I want it. And that's sort of in the category of that action journey that we were talking about, where we want you to be keenly aware of the emotional journey that you're taking now. You see, what happens is, as you're living a certain phase of your life, the aspects of your life cause you to set forth certain dreams. That's that launching into the future that you were talking about. And that doesn't mean that everything that you launch into the future comes into physical fruition. Only, as we said earlier today, they are held in vibrational escrow until you find vibrational alignment with it. And so we hear the powerful nature of this question. You're asking, is it possible that something that I've lived could have caused me to launch an intention or a desire or goal into my future experience that now is no longer a vibrational match to who I am now? And we heard in your question, even more importantly, do I have a responsibility to let in everything that I've launched from where I am? And we say it would take you 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or maybe 1,000 lifetimes to let it all in terms of manifestation. And you are right, you are moving vibrationally through space and time, so that very often you are not for very long or maybe ever a vibrational match to some of what you've launched, you have no obligation to live out any dreams. But what we notice is that the dream had an essence. There's lots of essence of lots of intentions that you've launched out here into this future experience. And as you will now focus upon the essence of that, the essence of it is the same, even though you may not now want to fulfill it by restoring the cars. You see. Mm-hmm. Because in the meantime, all kinds of other things may have changed. The way your neighborhood looks, or the way people in the neighborhood, or even a different neighbor, or even the way your family is beginning to look at it. In other words, there are all kinds of dynamics that are constantly shifting around. And as these different dynamics shift around, that doesn't mean that the essence of what you want can't still be fulfilled, but it may very well be fulfilled in a new way, not in the old way. So here's the answer. Took us a long time to get here, but here's the answer to this powerful leading edge question. We want you to follow the essence of the emotional journey and not worry about trying to fulfill all of the specifics of the action journey intentions. So that plays out to be something like, well, I still want to feel good, and I still want to have time to myself, and I still want to feel progressive and productive, and I still like to fiddle around with things, and I still like to focus, and I still like to make progress, but the way in which I do it can be varied.
Is there any need then to periodically strip away the stuff that we have learned to be able to see who the real person is, or what our basic desires are currently?
Well, it's what the process of caring about how you feel actually does. If you have a desire and a belief that matches it, then it is. But if you desire something that you don't believe or don't expect, then it's not going to be for now. And so your work is to bring your desire and your belief into the same vibrational place, you see. Your desires are being launched constantly, and your work is to get yourself feeling as good as you can feel moment by moment. And then the universe will yield to you all of these things that you've been asking for in even better demonstration than you could even have imagined them to begin with. In other words, the universe knows so much more specifically the timing and the specifics and the details of what you're asking for, even more than you do, because the universe has been listening to every intention that you've uttered from every life experience that you have lived. Everything and more that you have ever imagined or wanted is out there waiting for you to chill out and let it in. And it will come in ways that in some cases will surprise you, but in every case will delight you when you get into that place of just relaxing and allowing it to be. The conditions and the situations are always moving around, and the only thing that you have any hope of stabilizing is your own vibrational output, which is everything, because that output equals what comes back to you, you see. So if you're concentrating on dealing with the nucleus of the vibrational center that is your point of attraction, which in simpler terms says you care about how you feel and you try to feel good, then things have to work out well for you. So let's talk about it in very practical terms relative to the question that you just asked. So you look out into this space and you see these cars that are not only not yet running, but they're more torn apart than they've ever been. And you have an option of seeing that as something that is pleasing to you or displeasing to you. In other words, you can beat up on yourself and say, I'm not disciplined. I wanted it, but I'm not organized. You could beat up on yourself and say, I'm a menace to my own neighborhood. You could beat up on yourself and say, these cars are just getting older and rustier and less likely to ever run than ever. Or you could say, this is a project that I have been enjoying. This is a project that has brought me pleasure. If I never bring them into running order, still they have been someplace for me to focus. You can look on the exact situation and you can choose to feel good or you can choose to feel bad. And what we're suggesting is always choose to feel good, always choose to feel good, always choose to feel good, always choose to feel good. And in time, everything in your life will clean itself up. If you can choose to feel good about that, clarity will return. If you can choose to feel good about that, people who have vintage parts will show up in your experience. If you can choose to feel good about that, someone who wants a project like this, who's been looking for something to do, will want to come and play with you. Those cars will put themselves back together if you choose to feel good. We're not kidding you. Because everything in the universe actualizes around that vibration that feels good. And we think the fact that they're scattering and becoming more apart is an indication of the scattering of the energy that you are about. In other words, you're choosing to beat up on yourself when you could just as well and more wisely so choose to adore yourself, even if you do have 3 cars in hundreds of places.
Thank you very much, Abraham. Don't be surprised if you get a call from my wife.
When she calls, we'll tell her we have no idea what she is talking about. So how are you doing? Starting to get the hang of this?
Yes.
Is there anything you're supposed to be doing? Are there things that are undone that you need to get done for any reason other than that you would feel better if they were done?
No.
Jerry and Esther had a very interesting experience recently. Someone brought them a book that was written in the 1930s. And Jerry read a bit of it to Esther as she was driving. And in the book, the author was talking about these fast-moving times. She was talking about how overwhelming her life was and how hard it was to keep up with. And Esther nearly drove the monster bus off the road. She had been dealing with internet situations and networking situations and new software situations and trying to integrate her peak program with operating system 10. She'd been talking to technical support. And here is a woman from the 1930s who is struggling to keep up with her leading edge place. And Esther said, "This is fascinating. When we're on the leading edge, we're always on the leading edge. The leading edge is always that unfamiliar place where we must bring ourselves into the place of feeling good, even in the unfamiliar place." It was shocking to Esther because she thought about what the 1930s must have been like in terms of technology. She thought of her own mother, who has the same mix master she's had since Esther was a girl. The same 10-key adding machine, the same electric typewriter. In other words, her life is not out of control. It's very much in control. It's boring, but it's very much in control. It is certainly not on the leading edge, you see. And then, as we chatted with Esther about it and with Jerry, we pointed out that this leading edge place where you stand is always reaching into that which is new and unfamiliar. But if your dominant intent is to feel good, then you're always ready for whatever is new and unfamiliar. Then the unfamiliar feels exhilarating and adventurous, not overwhelming, you see. And then Esther thought, I'll bet in the 1930s that woman and all of her progressive friends were rushing and working very hard every day trying to get it done. And then Esther thought, but they didn't get it done, did they? In other words, do you know how much has happened since 1930? Do you know how much they didn't get done? And doesn't that make all of her angst and worry that she was involved in back there seem sort of pointless? And doesn't it make all of your angst and worry about what you need to get done sort of pointless? Because, friends, you're not ever going to get it done. You don't get it done. It isn't here to be gotten done. These are not projects for you to use to prove yourself against. You're not supposed to get it done. The only reason that anything ever exists is for the fun of doing it. We don't care if you take the car apart and put it back together 100 times. Getting it done is not the prize. It's the process of playing with it, you see. And so when you start getting it, that life experience is about the experience of what you're doing with it now, how you feel as you think the thought, how you feel as you say the words, how you feel as you move the action, how you feel as you are focused in this moment. That's what life is. And if you're trying to get something done, we promise you that 100 years from now or 5 years from now or day after tomorrow, somebody's going to look at what you struggled to get done and they're going to say to you, you can't get it done. So we give this to you in an effort to get you to relax a little bit and start enjoying the journey, because this is a journey without end. And if you're waiting till the end of some journey before you reward yourself with some accomplishment, then you're barking up the wrong tree. Life isn't about getting it done. It's like the perpetual vacation of finding circumstances and events to amuse you and interest you and call you forward, but it is not about getting anything done.